Okay, the agenda for today is simulating D flip-flop for data input sequence, same as that for D latch. Next is comparing the outputs of plain D latch and multiplexer based D latch for given input data sequence. Third is comparing the outputs of plain D latch and multiplexer based D latch. I think this has got repeated. Okay. And third point is not there. Choose. Okay. So simulating D flip-flop for data input sequence, same as that for D latch. And the aim is that we want to show that for the game, for the same input data sequence, a D flip-flop and D latch, they generate different kinds of outputs. Second is comparing outputs of plain D latch and multiplexer based D latch for given input data sequence. Basically, we want to prove that whether you make a plain D latch, which is level triggered, either active high or active low level trigger, or you convert a multiplexer into a D latch, which Yash showed to us last time. Ultimately, they will be producing the same outputs. And third is we'll start modeling counters in VHDL. This is part one. So as part one of modeling counters, we are going to just write a VHDL model for a plain n-bit up or down counter, which will be involving modeling on paper and then followed by synthesis and simulation. So we have lot many things to do today. Okay, fine. So I will directly flash the tool now. So are able to see the GUI of ISE?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So here we go to the tabs and here I have start. And already here I am having three projects. One is D flip-flop, second is D latch, and I had a multiplexer also here. Somehow it's not visible. So what I'll do is that I will open the D flip-flop project. So here this is my code for a D flip-flop, and so library statements are there, entity declaration is there, and my D flip-flop has only two inputs, data input D, clock signal CLK, and output Q. And in the architecture body, as I told you, basically D flip-flop, in our case, it has to be positive edge triggered. So a truth table for positive edge triggered D flip-flop says that the output Q follows the input D only at the rising edge of the clock. And for other three possibilities, that is clock is equal to 1, clock is equal to 0, and clock is going from 1 to 0, that is a falling edge, it does not respond at all. In sense, when clock is equal to 1 or it is 0 or it is transitioning from 1 to 0, the output Q remembers itself, that is no change, and the input D is sampled at every rising edge of the clock. So at every rising edge of the clock, the value of D is sampled. If input is equal to 1, then output becomes 1. And this value 1 is remembered till the arrival of next falling edge, rising edge, sorry. So when the next rising edge comes, if again the input is encountered as 1, the output continues to be 1. And it continues to be at 1 till the arrival of next rising edge. And suppose at the third rising edge, if the input D is found to be 0, then the output goes to 0. So please understand one thing, that flip-flops have sampling instants while latches have sampling intervals. So as long as the enable is equal to 1 or it is equal to 0 in case of a D latch, in the entire period when the enable remains 1 or 0, that is called as a sampling interval. And during this interval, when En remains 1 or it is 0 All the changes in input D are transmitted to Q as long as En remains 1 if it is active high or it is a positive level triggered latch. If it is negative level triggered latch, then as long as En remains equal to 0 during that entire interval, all the changes in input are transferred to the output. So we have to always understand that the main difference between a D flip flop and a D latch is that a D flip flop is a edge triggered system while a D latch is a level triggered system. A flip flop has sampling instants, and the sampling instant in the case of a D flip flop can either be the positive edge of the clock or the negative edge of the clock, also called as falling edge or the rising edge respectively. While in case of a D latch, it is sampling interval, that is En equal to 1 or En equal to 0. So depending upon what is the block diagram for D flip flop, we have written the entity declaration. We have simply written here. We have defined a temporary signal here called as Q, and I have done something here which I will undo it, and I will show you what is the effect, right? So we have defined a temporary signal Q temp, which is 1 bit. Then we have process, and the sensitivity list has all the input signals, that is CLK comma D. Then we have process begin, and now we are basically telling that if the rising edge of the clock comes, then the input D must be assigned to the dummy signal Q temp. Otherwise, Q temp should remember itself. So Q temp gets Q temp is nothing but a VHDL way of telling no change in the output. And when I say Q temp gets input D, it means there is a change. Now, as I told you that if I would have written Q here, then that was not a problem. So Q can always get D. So writing Q is assigned is perfectly correct, because to the left side of assignment operator, I am having an output signal, and to the right side of the assignment operator, I am having input signal. So this is according to the language. But if I want to tell that Q remembers itself or no change, then I allow to write down Q is assigned Q, which is not allowed, because in this case, the signal to the right of assignment operator becomes an output signal, which is not allowed. That is why what I do is that I define a dummy signal Q temp here, and then I will play around with this signal within the process. And then I will say if rising edge of the clock comes, then assign the input D to that dummy signal Q temp, else you assign Q temp to Q temp. So else here means clock equal to 1, clock equal to 0, as well as falling edge. Then I say end if, end process, and after coming outside the process and before exiting the architecture, what I do is that I assign the value of dummy signal Q temp to Q. It was our VHDL model for this thing. Now we are going to see the simulation. So whatever changes I made, I have done that. And because I have made changes in the model, I have to resynthesize it. Every time you make changes in the main VHDL model, you have to synthesize it. It's done. Now what I do is that in the agenda, I have told that simulating D flip flop for the data input sequence same as D latch. So what I have to do is that I have to see what is my sequence for D latch. So what I will do is that I will go and open my D latch program, D latch model. And here I see that this is how I have given it. Okay. So my D is assigned 1. So D remains 1 for 5 nanoseconds, then 0 for the next 5 nanoseconds, then 1 for next 5 nanoseconds, then it remains 0 for the next 20 seconds, then 1 for 15 nanoseconds, and then becomes 0 and wait, right? So on the time scale, if you see here, then at t equal to 0, D is equal to 1. At 5 nanoseconds, it is 1. At 10 nanoseconds, it is 0, so on and so forth, right? So we can draw it like this. So it is Okay. So if I convert this particular process into a waveform, it will look something like this. So if you see here, D has been initialized to 0. Okay. So 1, D is assigned 1, wait for 5 nanoseconds. Then D gets 0. Wait for 5 nanoseconds. D gets 1. Wait for 5 nanoseconds to reach 15. And then D gets 0. Wait for 20 nanoseconds. So from 15 to 35, 20 nanoseconds, it remains 0. Okay. And then here it becomes 1 and it remains 1 for next 15 nanoseconds. So it is 50. Okay. And then it becomes 0 like this. Okay. I'll redraw it because it is not that visible. Okay. Okay. So D is assigned 1, wait for 5 nanoseconds. D is assigned 0, wait for 5 nanoseconds. D is assigned 1, wait for 5 nanoseconds. D is assigned 0, wait for 20 nanoseconds. D is assigned 1, wait for 15 nanoseconds. D is assigned 0, wait. So when I say D is assigned 0 and wait, that means indefinite wait. So from 50 to infinity, D will remain equal to 0. Okay, so this is our sequence. So we will check if the same sequence has been given by me in my test bench for D flip-flop. So I'll again open a D flip-flop, go to simulation, and I will see my test bench program. Exactly same has been given here. Okay, same has been given here. But only difference is that here, in case of a D latch, in my test bench, I have written a separate process for enable. Okay, there's a process for enable. So enable remains 1 for 40 nanoseconds. Then it remains 0 for next 40 nanoseconds. And then it remains 1 and it is wait. Okay. But in case of a D flip-flop, my enable is not there. My clock is enable. So as I told you, for a latch, enable is enable. And for a flop, clock is the enable. Okay. And see very carefully how I've written the process for clock. So I've written clock process, then the keyword process, begin. Clock is assigned 0, wait for t by 2. Clock gets 1, wait for t by 2. And I've defined t as 10 nanoseconds. Okay. So here I've defined a constant t. So constant space, constant name, colon, data type, colon equal to initial value. So this is how you define the time period of a clock. So constant space t, which is the constant name, and I want t to be referring to the time period. So constant space t colon time colon equal to 10 nanoseconds. So when this particular process executed, what happens is the clock is made 0 and it is made to wait for t by 2, that is 5 nanoseconds. When clock is made 1, then it is set to wait for 5 nanoseconds and it goes on like this only. One important difference between main program and the test bench program is this. Carefully see, in case of the main program or the main VHDL model, we see that the process has a sensitivity list. But if we see in a test bench program, also processes are there, but process does not have a sensitivity list. Okay, so I can very well say here that no sensitivity list in process of test bench model. So in the test bench model, the difference is that the process does not have a sensitivity list. Second important difference is this. You see here there is entity space entity name is an end entity. The second difference here we see is that entity declaration is blank. Okay, so entity declaration in test bench model is blank, and the process in the test bench model does not have any sensitivity list. Okay, so this is how I written. So I will just go and simulate it. Okay, selecting the test bench program, not the main model. Okay, so after running it, I will deselect all the signals by clicking in the name column. I will just say zoom to full view, and we can see here how the clock is generated. Okay. Scrolling, and what I will do is that I will just click here, the cursor comes here. We can clearly see, if you want, I can zoom it still. See how the clock waveform is generated. Okay, we can clearly see here that at 0 nanoseconds clock is 0, and 0, 2 nanoseconds, 3 nanoseconds, 4 nanoseconds, 5. So I have said clock is assigned 0, wait for t by 2, and t is 10 nanoseconds, and then clock gets 1, wait for t by 2. Okay, so 0 to 5 nanoseconds it remains 0, 5 to 10 it remains 1, 10 to 15 becomes 0. It goes on toggling. Okay, and you see here the input is like this. Okay, so I will zoom in. Okay, so just carefully note here. Now you see here, it is an inbuilt feature of the ISIM tool that it always generates a time period waveform here. Okay, so I'll have to select this thing, and I will say right click, and I will say delete. I don't want to see the period waveform. Now we can see here how the output of the D flip-flop looks like. So for this particular input, as we told, we are having an output like this. Okay, so this is the output of a D flip-flop, which is positive edge trigger. And you can clearly see here, I will indicate the rising edges of the clock. In our program, if you see, this is our main model, and we have written if rising underscore edge bracket clock. So our flip-flop is positive edge triggered. So we want to appreciate this positive edge triggering even in ISIM. So see here, positive edge, next positive edge, third positive edge, fourth positive edge, fifth positive edge, sixth positive edge, right? So as I told you that in a flip-flop, the positive edge of the clock is a sampling instant. So what will happen is that if you want to cross-check the operation, we have to just go to rising edge of the clock. So rising edge, we see a rising edge. So at the first rising edge, it encounters D equal to 0. Okay. So now the output Q becomes 0. And then till the next rising edge, it continues 0. So from this rising edge, so this is the first rising edge here. This is the second rising edge. So between two rising edges, the output remembers itself. So at the first rising edge, it encountered D equal to 0. It became 0. And then till the next rising edge becomes 0. At this next rising edge, again what it has done, it has encountered a 1. So there was a change from 1 to 0, 0 to 1, but these changes in the input D were between two rising edges, so they were not registered. So second rising edge, it has again encountered D equal to 0. So it gets 0, it continues. Third rising edge, again, it gets D equal to 0. It continues, and see what happens. At the fourth rising edge, D is going from 0 to 1. It is catching that change and it is copying that change. Okay. So now we see here, next rising edge, it again samples the value of D. It finds D equal to 1. It continues. Okay. And it goes on. And what happens is in the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, the sixth rising edge, that is this rising edge, it has registered D equal to 0. Immediately it has become 0. Okay. So this is how it is. So this is the simulation of D flip-flop for the same data input sequence which we gave to D latch. Now I will flash to you what is this thing. Okay, now one more thing is that a question may be asked that there is some kind of a break in the input. You see here, what is there? It is undefined. Please remember this thing, that the output of any digital system should be either strong 0 or strong 1. So this is called as strong 1, this is called as strong 0, but this is something which is undefined. So remember one thing, that when my D flip-flop receives the first rising edge after t equal to 0. So when the D flip-flop receives the first rising edge after t equal to 0, because the output was not initialized, it is selling uninitialized. So if you remember, VSDL supports 9 valued logic: strong 1, strong 0, strong 1, weak 1, strong 0, weak 0, strong unknown, weak unknown, uninitialized, don't care, and high impedance state. Okay, so we had studied the 9 valued logic where we had 2 flavors of 1, 2 flavors of 0, 2 flavors of unknown, don't care, uninitialized, and high impedance state. So out of those 9 values, the U stands for uninitialized. How to remove this uninitialized, I will tell you. We go back here, and in our main model, so this is our main model. In the main model, I will initialize my temporary variable qtemp to actually 0. So the syntax for initializing is signal space signal name colon data type colon equal to single tick 0. Okay, so I've initialized my dummy signal qtemp to 0, and now because I have changed my main model, I have to resynthesize it and I have to resimulate. It will not allow because I have to open the parent ISIM window. So we have to do the same thing even when we are modeling counters. When you model a 4-bit up counter, down counter, then we have to initialize this qtemp variable, qtemp signal, which will now be 4-bit, and we have to initialize it to 0, 0, 0. Unable to remove previous simulation file bear.exe. I'll have to restart my system. That's a unique kind of problem, so I will not go for that. So if that simulation will run after I restart my system and delete that bear.exe file, then that particular uninitialized state which was coming after a few nanoseconds after t equal to 0 will actually go away. No problem. So we already have observed what is the output of D flip-flop. We will go and run that for the same input sequence. What is the output of a latch? So latch model is there, simulation is there, check syntax. We can clearly see that for the same input sequence as that of a flop, our output is actually different. Okay, so this is my enable signal, which is equal to 1 for 40 nanoseconds. For the next 40 nanoseconds, it is equal to 0. And from 80 nanoseconds till infinity, it is actually equal to 1. That means from 0 to 40, my latch is remaining enabled. From 40 to 80, it is remaining disabled. And from 80 till infinity it is remaining enabled again. So from 0 to 40 nanoseconds, this is the enabled interval of the D latch. So we are seeing that from 0 to 40 nanoseconds, because En equal to 1, all the changes in input are being reflected. You see here. So 1, uh, so 1, D equal to 1, output is equal to 1. D equal to 0, output is 0. So 1, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0. This is the sequence, and we are seeing that from till 40 nanoseconds, the output Q is actually copying D. Okay, till here. Okay, from this point to this point. So at 40 nanoseconds, enable goes 0. So we are seeing that the output of the latch at t equal to 40 nanoseconds was equal to 1. So after the latch has got disabled, it is actually remembering the value. Okay. So from 40 to 80, the output Q is remembering the value equal to 1. So we are clearly seeing that for the same input sequence, a D latch and a D flip flop are generating two different outputs. Okay. Fine. Okay. So I have put the output waveforms in a PPT. I'll show that. You can clearly see the waveform in the upper half of the window is the output of D latch using multiplexer, which Yash had shown to us last Friday. So the output waveforms of D latch using mux, and the below one is the outputs of plain D latch. Okay, so we see that for the same sequence, D latch using mux and plain D latch are giving same waveforms, indicating that we have successfully used the feedback concept into a multiplexer. So we have converted multiplexer, which is a combinational system, into a sequential system by using the concept of feedback. So because the D latch using multiplexer is giving same output, that means we have achieved the same functionality as a plain D latch. We see here, this is the output of a D flip flop, which I just showed you on ISIM, and we can clearly see that for the same input sequence as D latch, the D flip flop is generating a different output. Okay, and this is a comparison, right? So these particular slide shows that D latch using multiplexer and plain D latch have same functionality. This is showing the output of a D flip flop, and this slide shows the comparison between D latch and D flip flop. You can see here, upper half is output of D latch and lower half is a D flip flop. Okay, over now. Okay, so now we will start with modeling counters in VHDL. Before that, we have to do some paperwork. Okay. Okay. So modeling counters in VHDL. Okay, so first we need to draw the correct block diagram of n-bit counter. Then we can easily write the entity declaration. Okay, so okay, so we will give a generic name counter underscore n. So if we are going to make a 2-bit counter, we will say counter underscore 2, counter underscore 3. Now you tell me what will be the inputs and outputs of an n-bit counter. Yes, what will be the inputs and outputs of an n-bit counter?
Sir, clock.
Okay, the first input is this thing. Okay. Okay, and let us assume it to be negative as triggered clock. Any more inputs?
No, sir.
No, sir.
No, for a plain counter, no. And what about outputs? How many outputs will a n-bit counter have?
N outputs.
N outputs, but we will not draw n. We will draw a output bus. Let it be Q n. Okay. Now we can have two variants here. Either up counter or down counter. Okay, and we can have a third variant that is the same counter has functionality of up down counting, right? So a plain n-bit counter can either be n-bit up counter, bit down counter, or it can have n-bit up down counter. But if you want to have up down facility, then we have to add one more signal called as mode. Okay, so if you want to have up counter, there is no need of mode control. Down counter, no need of mode control. If you want to have up down functionality in the same counter, we should have one mode. That means what? That mode will be a 1-bit signal. When mode equal to 1, the counter will do up counting. When mode is equal to 0, it will do down counting. In addition to that, we can also have facility of having the output reset to n0. So there can be a reset signal input, and we can also have a functionality to drive all the n outputs, n bits to 1. So the additional signals can be mode, reset and preset, but now we are not going to discuss that. Okay, so now the block diagram is done. Now we should make the truth table. Okay, so it is a negative edge triggered counter. It's a negative edge triggered counter. Now we have to draw the block diagram so that we'll be in a position to, not block diagram, truth table. Okay, so now we come to truth table. So the truth table, okay. So our counter is negative edge trigger. So when clock equal to 0, it will remember itself. Clock equal to 1, it will remember itself. When there is a rising edge, it will remember itself. And when falling edge comes, then it will be Qn plus 1 or Qn minus 1. Okay, so if at the arrival of falling edge of the clock, if my output is Qn plus 1, then it is up counter. If it decrements by 1, it is a down counter. Very simple. So in our block diagram, we have clock and Q. So from this, I will make the entity declaration. From this, I'll make the truth table. Okay. without discussing any more things, we are going to start doing the modeling now. Okay, so I go to File, New Project, and here I cannot make an n-bit counter. Let me make a simple 2-bit counter. So I will say counter underscore 2. Okay, so my entity name is counter underscore 2. HDL, next. None specified 3E 250 PQ208 -5. HDL XST ISIM VHDL 93. Next, finish. Okay. New source, VHDL module, Control V, reselect, next, Control V underscore arch. CLK input and my Q. Now here, if we see here that my output Q has an MSB and an LSB, so I cannot use 0 to n-1. I have to use n-1 down to 0. That is why I will say direction of Q as out. And then there's a new thing which some of you must be learning, because output is 2 bits. I will say bus, and I want 1 down to 0. So I will put 1 here. LSB becomes 0. No other inputs are there. Just say next, just say finish. Okay. And here I go to float. I will delete all the comments. Here. Okay. So here Q has been defined as out and standard logic vector 1 down to 0. Okay. So process CLK, only one input is there. Begin. And here what I want to tell is this, that only when the falling edge of the clock comes, my output should increment or decrement. So let us assume that we want to make an up counter. I go here and say if falling underscore edge clock comes, that is, if the falling edge comes, then what you should do is that you should increment Q by 1. So Q is assigned Q plus 1. Okay, semicolon. And if anything other than falling edge comes, that is, if clock equal to 0 comes, or clock equal to 1 comes, or rising edge comes, you should not change the value of Q. So I will say else Q is assigned Q. So my logic is over now. So if falling edge comes, increment output by 1. If it doesn't come, you keep as it is. Okay. So what we do is, we have done end if. I will do end process, and that's it. Okay. So I feel that my logic is over. So I will go and say doc, and I will select the VHDL file, and I will say synthesize XST. Okay. Yeah, there's an error. Good. Error number 21, error number 25. Okay, so line number 21, right? So line 21 plus cannot have such operands in this context. There's a first error which is there at this particular line. And it is also telling me line number 25 that object Q of mode out cannot be read. This is nothing but another way of telling that to the right side of assignment operator, I cannot have a output signal. So we will define what we will do is, we will define signal, dummy signal Q temp, and I can copy paste this thing from there. Okay, Control C, Control V, semicolon. Okay, so there is a dummy signal Q temp which is going to ultimately drive Q. So whatever is the dimension of Q, so Q is a 2-bit signal, 1 down to 0. So Q temp also has to be the same thing. Control S, resynthesize. Yeah. So again, same errors. Object Q of mode out cannot be read. Read Q because yeah, again the same thing. So I have defined Q temp, but I have to use it now. So Q temp gets Q temp plus 1. I can say then after coming outside the process and before exiting, I'll have to say Q is assigned Q temp. Okay. Again. Error. Line 21 cannot have operands in this context. So I will tell you why this problem is coming. Okay. So see now my statement is like this. I have written Q temp is assigned Q temp plus 1. So I've written this particular plus 1 in order to increment the output by 1. But the problem is here. What is the data type of Q temp? Q temp is defined as standard underscore logic. Basically, it is a binary data type. Okay. And here you see when I write 1, remember in VHDL, the rule is that anything which is not enclosed in single quotes or double quotes is taken as integer. Okay. So rule is that if any value is not enclosed in either single quotes or double quotes, it is regarded as integer data type. Okay, so here when I write Qtemp gets Qtemp plus 1, I am trying to add a integer data type to standard logic data type. Okay, so Qtemp is assigned Qtemp plus or minus 1. It means it is like adding so standard underscore logic is assigned standard underscore logic plus integer, which is not allowed. Okay, so we need to either write a separate function or a process to do data type conversion, or else there is another better solution for this. Okay, so you see here, so Qtemp gets Qtemp plus 1 is attempting to add a signal belonging to the data type standard underscore logic to a number 1, which is integer data type, right? So what we do is that we add one more library statement here. So another problem is this. Now our output Q is 2-bit, so it is going to go through 4 states. So initially when my counter is reset, then Q will be equal to 0, 0. First falling edge comes, becomes 0, 1. Next falling edge 1, 0. Next falling edge 1, 1. And next falling edge 0, 0. But please understand one thing, that we have not written any logic within our architecture body, which will tell, we have not written any logic in our this thing, which will tell me that you have to roll. Okay. So now my Q is actually defined 1 down to 0. So basically I have Q bracket 1 and Q bracket 0. Okay. So initially, if suppose output is reset, first falling edge 0, 1, next falling edge 1, 0, next falling edge 1, 1, and next falling edge here, right? Where is the logic which tells Q temp to roll back to 00 once it reaches 11. My argument is, where is a logic which tells Qtemp to roll back to 00 once it reaches 11? Okay, so there has to be somebody to tell. There has to be somebody to tell that if an n-bit vector which starts at n zeros and increments and goes to n ones must roll back. Okay, so automatic data type conversion, automatic data type conversion plus automatic rollback of n-bit vector when it reaches terminal count is given in a package which is written as follows. So I can say use IEEE dot standard underscore logic underscore unsigned dot all. So this is the library statement which has to be added in our program. Okay, so this error will be resolved soon. I have to just add one statement here. Resynthesize. Through RTL schematic counter to coincide. Okay, fine. So now we'll go to write the test bench. So I'll say simulation and I will go here, right click, new source, test bench, and TB, reselect VHDL test bench, project next, next, finish. Float. This is the first VHDL model where we are not going to delete the clock constant and the clock generation waveform. Okay, so simple. Okay, library statements, blank entity, architecture body, component creation, initializing clock to 0, output is not initialized. There is a clock period of 10 nanoseconds. And here we go, and there's a clock generation process, and we don't need anything else. Till now, what we were doing for logic gates and D latches and D flip flops is that we used to delete this particular statement which defined the clock period. We used to delete this process which generated the clock, but now we need a clock. So we'll keep that. And then we used to write another process for the input D of latch or flip flop and maybe enable. So we don't need this process at all. Yes, if in our system we add one more signal such as RST reset, another signal preset PR, and also mode, then we will have to write 3 more processes. The next process will be for preset, next will be for reset, and next will be for mode. Okay, so it is done. It's very simple. We'll simply go, we'll say doc, and it has been generated. Select the test bench waveform expand the tree, say behavioral check syntax, and here we are. Okay, so yes, clock waveform is there. We will expand it because it's a high frequency waveform with 100 megahertz frequency. So we see here, so our outputs can be expanded here, and we are getting uninitialized here. And where a clock period is there, as I told you, clock period is an additional output we don't need. We can right click and say delete, and we can expand a little bit like this, little bit like this. And what we were expecting is that every falling edge. So this is the first falling edge. Okay, the first fall we were expecting at the falling edge, my counter should increment by 1. So we are expecting the counter to go from 0, 0 to 0, 1, 0, 1 to 1, 0 to 1, 1 and roll back. Is not happening. Now this XX, okay, so uninitialized, and it is telling strong unknown is coming. This because we have not initialized the counter. So we will close this. Sorry. No. Close this. No. Yes. So what I will do is that I will go to my main program and I will initialize my QTemp to 0, 0 equal to double quote 0, 0. Why double quotes? Because it is a multi-bit signal. Okay. So I've done that. Go to implementation, resynthesize my model. Okay. So QTemp undefined block is coming.
Sir, semicolon should be there in signal. Sorry, not semicolon.
It's colon equal to. Yeah, so I had made a syntax error. The initialization is colon equal to. This will solve the problem. So there are some silly mistake which a person does, but then tool will catch it very easily. No problem. We'll get it. No problem. So we have already seen that what was the simulation waveform when QTemp was not initialized to anything. It was giving uninitialized and it was giving strong unknown values at the output. And we hope to resolve this error by initializing the temporary or dummy signal to 0, 0. It should not take so much time. I'll have to abort the process by saying stop. Okay. I will say right click and I will say rerun all. You see, so if it suppose takes a time longer than expected, you can abort the process and you can do it again. Okay. So no issues. Go to simulation. And because the logic has been changed a little bit, I'll have to say behavioral check syntax again. And then we can say simulate behavioral model here. Yes, once we get greens, that means it's all good. So again, same thing. I will expand this. I will expand this. And I will remove this clock underscore period. Say delete. Okay. Yes, good. So we are getting something. Okay. So we will zoom it to such a place where we actually see zeros and ones. Okay. Zoom it again because only 4 values to be seen. Okay. See here. Any problem? Okay. So first falling edge we are seeing the first falling edge of clock. So it was 0, 0. So because I have initialized the output QTemp to 0, 0. That is why even before the falling edge came, it was 0, 0, right? So first falling edge incremented to 0, 1. Remembering 0, 1 till next falling edge. Second falling edge incremented to 1, 0. Next falling edge incremented to 1, 1 and 0. Okay, there is one more way to appreciate. What I can do is I can say right click, radix and hexadecimal. You see 0, 1, 2, 3, 0, 1, 2, 3, 0, 1, 2, 3. It's going on. Okay, it's incrementing. Now how these counters are scalable, we can come to know. Okay, so I'll make it into a 4-bit counter now. Very simple. Go to main program and just increase the size from 1 down to 0 to 3 down to 0. Again, make the 3 down to 0 and you have to make it 0, 0. Okay. So QTemp, which is now a 4-bit vector, it is now initialized to 0 0 0 0. Otherwise everything else remains the same. So because we have changed the logic now, again you have to resynthesize it and it becomes scalable. So now we are expecting our counters output to go from 0 to 15 and roll back to 0. It is 0 0 0 0 to 1 1 1 1 and roll back to 0. Go to simulation and check syntax. And we are through. Yeah. So here there is a problem here. Okay. So test bench program did not get automatically updated. So actually we have to update it manually. Okay. So I will say 3 down to 0. And here also I'll make it 3 down to 0. Let me see if any other changes are required. I don't think so any other changes are required. No, that's it. So we also realize that if I change the length of vector in the main program, it does not get automatically updated in the test bench program. Okay. So here I say float, say zoom to full view, remove, and I will zoom it. Okay. So we are seeing how the counter is going from 4 zeros to 4 1. So every falling edge of the clock, it is actually incrementing by 1. So 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay. If you're not able to appreciate, no problem. We'll make the radix as hexadecimal. Okay. See 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, A, B, C, D, E, F, and roll back. If you want some colorful presentation, no problem. We can change the colors of individual bits, or you can also change the color of the whole signal to say pink. Okay. And then we can have individual colors also. MSB. Yellow. Green. Let's say white. Okay, that's it. Okay, so this is how it is. Okay, so you can either visualize like this, and if you want to have, you can again change the radix to default, and we can have like this. Okay, so this was our plain counter, and if you want to change it to a down counter, it's very simple. Go to the main program and just say Q is assigned Q minus 1. Sorry. Okay, and everything else should remain the same. Let us see. So we are seeing here that in our main VHDL program, we have initialized our output Q temp to actually 0 0 0 0. That is why when the first falling edge comes, it is doing 0 0 0 0 minus 1. So it is giving 4 ones. So here when it was an up counter, at the arrival of the first falling edge, it was becoming 0 0 0 1. It was incrementing by 1. It is becoming minus 1. So it is now 0, then 15, 14. It's a down counter. We can change the radix if we are not able to decode the bits into decimal form. We are seeing here that the counter's dummy signal Q temp is initialized to 0. So it is becoming 0. First falling edge F, E, D, C, B, A, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, and then roll back. Okay, it's like that. So no. Okay. Here it is. So we have completed the agenda today, and in the next session, that is 8. Teams calendar, and we have the next lecture. The next lecture Wednesday, tomorrow. Yeah. So with the agenda for the next lecture is this thing: modeling counters in VHDL part 2. So it contains up-down counters with reset, up-down counters with preset, up-down counters with reset and preset, and last is the concept of asynchronous and synchronous reset and preset. This will be agenda for the next lecture whenever it will be. Any questions till now? Anybody's any questions? Counters are very simple as such. Yes, anybody's any questions or doubts or want to add something or comment?
No, sir.
Okay.